Great morning, great morning, great morning, guys. We're still getting set up. We'll be on with y'all in a minute. While y'all are coming in the room, do me a huge favor, and I want you guys to chime in. Let us know, where are you tuning in from? Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. Where are you tuning in from? What is the weather like? It is a windy 43 degrees here in Virginia Beach. What's the weather like where you are? Also, if this is your first time, here's what I need you to do. I need you to put first time in the chat. If this is your first time on with us, Breakfast with the Brookses, I want you to put first time in the chat so that we can greet you a little bit more personally. We're getting ready to get set up so that we can go live here, guys. Let me tell y'all something. People are struggling in their relationships in a way that, quite frankly, I think that it's a lack of skill, it's a lack of understanding that keeps them stuck. So if you're coming in the room, do me a huge favor. Let me know where you coming in from. I want to know what city, because obviously we on YouTube and we live. And so you can be literally anywhere in the world. I just like to know who's in the room, who who you know, where you at, how you find us, that kind of stuff. And then the other part, hey Karen, good to see you. 40 degrees. Wow. I'm telling you right now, I'm so ready for it to get hot for real and just stay hot. So anyway, we get ready to go live. We're gonna go live on Instagram here in a second. Come on, Sheree. We gotta go, babe. Let's get it. All right, she's getting her coffee. I'm rushing her, so now it's getting ready to be a problem because I'm rushing her. If you are on Instagram, guys, do me a huge favor, and I want you to go over to Instagram and jump on. We're on Breakfast with the Brookses on Instagram, and we also want to talk to that audience there. Let me go live on Instagram real quick. Real quick. What's going on, Instagram? Great morning. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. We're getting ready to go live. Cherie will be here in a second. Let me go ahead and, because Cherie is just taking too long, so I'm going to go ahead and show my face here on YouTube. What's up, guys? What's up? Good morning. Everybody good? Let me know. Everybody good? You good? Listen, here's what I want y'all to do. I want y'all to let me know. So Nikkei says she's in Upper Marlboro. It's sunny and cold, but 49 degrees. Teresa's in Percyville. Shout out to VA. 37 degrees. Going to be 60 tomorrow. Let me tell you something right now. Jesus is coming. I don't care what nobody say. Me too. I'm tired of it. I know that's right. What's up, Russ Crawdaddy? What's the temperature in Texas like, man? What y'all doing? What y'all got working down there, man? Great to see you guys. Welcome to Breakfast with the Brookses. Don't forget to spring forward tonight. Is it tonight?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
No way, man.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. Turn that other light on right there, babe. Turn that other light on. It's really gloomy outside, so my light is having a situation. No, babe. Babe, the switch on the wall. We got a little different stuff happening today, guys. I apologize. We are not organized today. We got a workshop that we're getting ready to do here in a little bit. I don't know if
Good morning, everybody.
They can see you on Instagram.
How's everybody doing today?
Everybody good?
It's a lovely, gloomy
Saturday
morning.
It's not the word.
Welcome to Breakfast with the Brooks.
So Floyd says he's oh wait a minute, I don't know if that's trying to schedule session. Hit me when you okay, got you, brother. Got you. So guys, real quick, we're gonna go back to pick up a little bit where we left off last week, baby. And we were talking about building trust.
Did you welcome the people?
I did welcome the people. You were in there making coffee, and so you didn't hear any of that.
Did you tell them who we are?
I did not do any of that part, but you can do that. Go ahead.
We are the Brookses. This is Glenn P. Brooks Jr. I'm Cherie A. Brooks Jr. And we are relationship coaches, and we have an online relationship coaching academy that's called the MAPS Relationship Academy. That's what this is.
Can you stop talking with that voice, because that's just irritating. Talk in your regular voice, please. I'm not playing. Come on, let's get it.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I had a voice.
Put some bass in your voice. I need to hear that bass
in my voice. But good morning, guys. We are, as I was saying, we are relationship coaches. We have an online relationship academy called the MAPS Relationship Academy.
Yep.
And every Saturday morning, we're here on YouTube and for our show Breakfast with the Brooks, where we talk about different relationship issues that affect married couples, singles, parents, blending families, all different topics. And today we're going to continue our series that we've been talking about on rebuilding trust, particularly in marriage.
So real quick, guys, if you are new to us and you're new to the show, do me a favor, put first timer in the chat The other thing I want you guys to remember is that if you are interested in coaching, if you're interested in getting with a community of people in the MAPS Relationship Academy, we do all we do is help people grow their relationships intentionally. We believe that if you are going to get to any place of significance, you cannot do that by yourself. It's going to take a community of people. We absolutely believe that. That's how we've been able to succeed for the last 21 years. For those that don't know, Cherie and I have written 7 books between the two of us. We've been doing this a very long time, from blending families to trying to figure out how to raise kids to be successful and all of those things that go with that, guys. Our goal is to pass that information on. I'm going to die empty. I know that sounds weird, but that is the truth. I believe that all the stuff that I've gone through has not been just for me, and we want to do our best to give it out so that people can win in their relationships. So the MAPS Relationship Academy was designed for that specific reason. If you are interested in coming to the MAPS Relationship Academy, just do me a favor, go to www.thecrcoach.com. That's www.thecrcoach.com. Put that in the chat for me, Russ, on Instagram, and then share this out, guys. Sign up for a free discovery session at that website address, and we will sit and chop it up and talk about whether or not we are a fit for you. And if so, you get to come in, we get to chop it up. We have 5 different group coaching platforms, rooms, individual rooms. We have couples. We have a parenting room, specifically if you are parenting. We have a singles room for those singles who at some point want to get married and they want to position themselves to do so. And then we have a men's only and a women's only room where Cherie gets with women twice a week. She gets with single ladies one night, and she gets with the married or the coupled ladies another night. So it's a pretty dope environment. Bunch of people who will love you between your toes. All over the world, people chime in. It's a private room. What goes on in the MAPS community stays in the MAPS community. We kind of like Vegas in that regard. We don't play. We will put you out if we find out that you loose lips is sinking ship. So right. So we don't play that. So anyway, let's get back to what we talked about last week, babe. So we did a part 1 of right. How to rebuild trust, or how can couples rebuild trust. Before we do that, can we set it up and talk about why we're qualified to talk about this in terms of the trust part?
Oh, sure. For those of you that know us, you know that I've been married twice before, and this is my 3rd marriage, and Glenn's been married 1 time before. And so we have personally violated trust in marriages in our previous relationships and had it violated against us. And also in our relationship, early on in our relationship, we had some issues. It wasn't infidelity, but it was dealing with finances. But we had to navigate through how to regain that trust. And I believe that in every marriage, particularly, there's going to be something that's going to happen where that trust is going to be eroded.
Yep.
Either it's going to be miscommunication, not full disclosure about something, and then, the extreme cases when there is infidelity, when there are major issues that occur, and you have to rebuild trust. But I believe that when both partners are committed to the relationship, that it is possible to get back from that place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about the comeback, right? Put that in the chat. The comeback. How do you come back from places of mistrust? So there are 5 things that you need to know when it comes to rebuilding trust. Last week, we talked about the first 3. We'll do a brief recap on that. But number 1 was knowing the details. What do we mean when we say that? Right, and knowing
the details.
Put that in the chat, guys. Knowing the details.
Facts.
Come on now.
That does not mean that you need to, if your spouse has committed, has had an affair, there's been some infidelity, that you need to know all the nitty-gritty details. Mm-hmm. That's not what we're saying. You just need to know the facts. You don't need to base your feelings of distrust on an assumption,
right.
on a feeling.
Right.
You need to know for sure what it is that you're talking about. And so you need to have that conversation to get clarity so that you know exactly what it is that you're dealing with. So you have to know the details.
We always like to say that there's 3 sides to every story. There's your side, there's their side, and then there's what, baby? The truth.
The truth. And also part of knowing the details is you're getting an understanding of why it happened. Mm-hmm. What their motivation was. Was it malicious? Was it, just...
Was it a pure accident?
Was it a pure accident? So, but knowing the details helps you to know the full scope of the situation instead of you just assuming or just going off your emotions.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something right now. Emotions are dangerous. And if you put stock in emotions, they can have you up the creek without a paddle. Number two, we said was releasing the anger. Releasing the anger. When we talk about releasing the anger, guys, one of the things is that even when it comes to minor breaches of trust, they can lead to mental, emotional, and physical health problems that as you keep or keep a hold of that, is really what I'm trying to say. You keep holding that in, it will produce problems elsewhere.
Right, and it'll also wind up releasing in a big.
Right. So, and a lot of times, have you ever had a person that was feeling, quote, some type of way? I hate that statement. I'm feeling some type of way. Explain it. Well, what is that way? Let's get some language on that. Some type of way. You know what I mean? So, but at any rate, when you are feeling in a way and you do not communicate that and you hold it in, at the end of that situation, it's going to be an explosive problem happening because it's had time to fester and that sort of stuff. So you've got to practice some kind of way of releasing the anger before you have the conversations that will allow you to move on.
Right.
So a lot of you guys are trying to release the anger while you talking to that person.
Right.
And trying to get resolution all at the same time. That don't work.
Right. So it's always good to have a safe place, a safe friend, somebody that you can talk to, you can run it past. And this has to be somebody that got some sense. You don't want to tell your girlfriend that's just simple.
Please.
I think my husband this, and she don't like, come on, girl, let's pack up, let's go. That ain't the conversation.
We ain't talking to simple people.
And so, but you need to be able to have a place that you can release it. And also, it's not healthy for you to hold on to that. And oftentimes what will happen, I know in our situation, there have been situations that have occurred that I've been bothered about or that I've held on to, and it affected me physically because I would tell myself this ain't the time to talk about it, and I would just hold on to things, and it winds up leading to bitterness and resentment. And so it's better to get it out, talk about it, release that stuff because it can have mental and physical effects on you when you hold on to it.
Chris, you're right. Some people don't know how to do that well. That's one of the reasons why we created MAPS, because we wanted to create an environment where people could come in and they could share how they really felt.
Right.
They felt safe and they felt like they were not going to be judged. And quite frankly, there are times where when a couple can't communicate with each other, they've come to the MAPS Relationship Academy
and we'll have the
on couples night, and they'll say, hey, I've got something I need to get off my chest. I don't know how to say this. So I'm just going to say this. And their partner is right there. And we're able to real time navigate them through. Okay, well, let's have a session. And we'll say, share what it is that you're feeling. So-and-so, you need to let your spouse, you need to listen, grab something to write with. I want you to take notes while they're talking because we're going to give you a shot. And then they come in and they talk. And then before you know it, we're getting the resolution. And they're practicing how to get that out without doing the crazy stuff. So we're talking about releasing the anger. That's number 2. Number 3 is show commitment. When we talk about showing commitment, guys, both parties have to do work in order for you to get past where you are. Cherie, how many times, I mean, if we had a dime for every time we've had couples who've come to us where one was willing to do the work and the other one just flat out wasn't trying to participate.
Right.
And what we've often told people is, in a season where that's happening, you really should do work on you.
Right.
And take a break in the sense of really trying to get them to understand something and do some work on you, your anger, where you are, what could you have done differently or whatever. But then there has to be a time where you come together and create a game plan together on how we get past this.
Right. And also the biggest thing, whenever there's been trust broken in a relationship, the person who broke the trust, the onus is on them to do the work.
Please say that.
The onus is on the person who violated the trust to do the work to rebuild the trust. So that means being completely accountable. That means, being empathetic to how the other person feels because you violated their trust. So you can't say, I'm sorry, and then expect everything to go back the next day.
Right.
You have to allow them time to heal through whatever it is, and you have to put forth the most effort to regain the trust because you're the one that broke the trust.
Right.
And so if I break something, I need to fix it. It's not on the other person to fix it.
Right. Cherie, you you bring up a great point, and I'm gonna stop there for 1 second, and then we're gonna get to the other 2, and then we're gonna finish for the day. But I promise you, having been the guy who stepped out and committed adultery in my first marriage, I remember going through this thought of, well, she should be over it by now. It's been 3 months. Why is she still stuck?
Right.
Why is she still bringing up the past? Why is she still?
Won't let it go. They won't let it
if
go.
we're sitting in a movie or if we're sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden everything was good, but then the mood switches.
Right.
And I don't have a clue as to why. Well, what you don't know is that scene in the movie is reminding this person of the trust that's been broken or violated. Here's one of the things, I never learned this in my first marriage. Never did learn this. It wasn't until after that I really figured out the importance of me changing and me owning that and me doing the work that it takes to say, listen, I screwed this up. I need to work to get it back. So consequently, I spent that time regaining her trust after our divorce.
Right.
To be very honest, because we still had a child. It was when I got that revelation and understood, yo, this is your fault. You screwed this up. So you got work to do. When I started doing that work on me and I started owning my crap and I started saying what it was, a release took place.
Right.
And this woman now opened up the floodgates for me with no drama, with no pushback. Let's work it out with our son.
Right.
We're over, but our son don't have to to experience all kinds of pain because you were never willing to move on and to own or show the commitment to doing this work. What's up, Dre? Good to see you, bro. Y'all do me a favor on Instagram. Click that arrow at the bottom of the screen. Share this out. YouTube, y'all share this out. I've also went live briefly on my personal Facebook page this morning. If you grab that, make sure you share that out because the link is there. But today we're going to go through the last two. If you want to rebuild trust in the marriage, we're going to actually go through some things and talk about what rebuilding trust looks like. So number 3 is actually rebuilding the trust. Many people just want to forgive, forget, and move on.
Right. That doesn't work.
Come on, babe.
When trust has been violated, there's work that has to be put in. You have to rebuild that trust. Like I said, when you break something, you don't just, it's broken and you just sit it to the side and think it's going to just come back together. There's work that has to be done to put it back together. And unfortunately, people, today feel like, well, I said I was sorry.
Yep. Get over it.
I said I was sorry. But if your actions don't change.
Come on now.
If your behavior does not change.
Come on now.
If your language does not change, that elephant is still in the room. It doesn't go anywhere. It's still there. And just because, for lack of better terms, and I have, just because I'm not bitching and moaning about it every day doesn't mean that it's gone anywhere.
Come on, say it.
Just because I'm not being the royal bee and every time you come home, I'm reminding you of it. I'm living life. I'm moving on as best I can, but it doesn't mean that it's gone.
Come on, babe.
And so the issue is still there, and until it's addressed, until you show me a change,
right?
Until your behavior changes, until you've shown contrition, you sought restitution.
Right, and we're going to talk about that.
For your acts, it doesn't just go anywhere. And so just say, I think you want to go to the next one?
I'm getting ready to go there. You finish your point.
So, you can't just say, I'm sorry, and think that the issue goes away. And unfortunately, that's what most people think. It's like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to go away.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Humans that's not physiologically possible.
Right. So I want you guys to see that. Dre giving you the side eye. No, that's the truth, Dre, and you and I both know that takes that looks like something. So put this in the chat. Rebuilding trust looks like something. I want y'all to put that in the chat. Rebuilding trust looks like something. Okay? Put that in the chat. And we ain't moving on until I see a string of people engage in this process because guys, we ain't here for our health. I want to make sure that there's some engagement and that y'all are getting something out of this. Even if you're on replay, I want you to put in the chat, rebuilding trust looks like something. And babe, I think that unfortunately, most people are not settled on that because of the guilt, perhaps because of the shame, perhaps because of the conviction that they have of a wrong or something that they've done. They don't believe that should actually look like something. So people are starting to put that in the chat. We can go on. There are 4 things that I want you guys to know that you need to know when it comes to rebuilding trust. And we're going to put these in a list of order, and I want y'all to write this down. 4 things that you need to know when it comes to just rebuilding trust. Now, rebuilding trust looks like something for the offender
and for the
betrayed.
Right.
And then for the couple.
Mm-hmm.
So this one component is packed full of stuff.
For both parties.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I got it. So I need y'all to really, really be clear on this. And we're going to go through this. So number 1, when rebuilding the trust, you have to make a decision to forgive or to be forgiven.
Right. And so
put that in the chat. Make a decision to forgive or be forgiven. Go ahead.
And so what that looks like for the offender, as I said, for the offender, number 1, you have to forgive yourself for making the mistake. It doesn't mean that you have to walk around like, oh, I'm crap now because I made this mistake.
Right.
No, but you do need to work on yourself and try to and grow from that experience to show different.
Yep.
It's more than just saying that you're sorry. Now, for the person that the offense was against, or the offense was against, you have to, if you want to have a successful relationship, you have to be willing to forgive.
Yes.
You cannot hold that issue over that person's head. You cannot.
That's good, babe.
Decide, well, I'm never going to forgive you for this. If you want the relationship to last. Now, if you're saying I'm never going to forgive you for that, know that that's the end of the relationship. You need to move on.
Come out. Stop the presses. Stop the freaking presses. My wife just said something that was fire, and I don't know if y'all caught that. When we're talking about making a decision to forgive or not, here's what we know, particularly in marriages. You are going to have plenty of opportunities not to forgive. Right. You're going to also have plenty of opportunities to forgive. So if you have never gotten to the place to where you can do the work on yourself of making a decision to forgive, here's the problem. You're going to have a very long life of frustration and pain.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it is actually easier. Listen to me carefully. This is where I have to tell you, I'm not your pastor and I'm not your counselor. Sometimes it really may mean that this is it.
Right.
It's time for us to move on because I can't move past that. And let me for all my people who've been betrayed, you get to say that.
Right.
You get to say, I can't forgive you. Mm-hmm. You get to say, that's a choice, just like love. Mm-hmm. It is a choice. And if you can't make that choice, you have a decision to make. And I need you guys to be really, really clear. And unfortunately, most people want their cake and they want to eat it too.
Right. So if you are, if you have said all your life, if a person does this to me, that's it. I can't forgive them for that. Number 1, before you get married, you need to change that language. But if you are of that, if there is this one thing that's non-negotiable for you, and we all have areas that are non-negotiable for us. So if you have a non-negotiable, if a person violates this one area, I can never forgive them for that. That's just it. Know that in the beginning. If they cross that line, you need to let them know point blank. Look, I can't get past this.
Right.
Don't try to fake the funk.
That's not fair.
And act like we're going to try to work through this when you know in your heart of hearts, I'm never going to be able to forgive you for
this. Come on, baby.
You need to be honest and tell them, I can't forgive you for that. Now, you could have done anything else.
Right.
But that one thing, I can't forgive you. And know that in that means that's the end of the relationship, because it's not fair at that point to try to continue the relationship, because there's always going to be that level of distrust, and you're never going to, because at that point, everything else now
it's going to get
just keep piling on top of that thing.
Does that make sense, guys?
That's not fair to you. That's not fair to them. That's not fair to the relationship.
Come on, baby.
So if you can't get to the point where you can make a decision that I can forgive, and forgiving is simply realizing that we're all human.
Right.
We all make mistakes. Nobody is perfect.
Right.
We all are only one decision away.
Come on now.
From
screwing
failing
up royally
or screwing up in an area. So if you cannot view your spouse as human and realize that we make mistakes. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that has a repetitive problem. They doing the same thing over and over again. At that point, you need to draw a line.
You got a decision.
But I'm talking about they do this thing one time and you just like, I'm done.
I'm done.
I can't. I'm just done. Then be done.
Yep.
If that's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
But know that you cannot have that type of attitude and expect the relationship to continue to prosper if you have that type of attitude. So you have to be willing to forgive as the person that's been offended, as well as for the offender. You have to be willing to forgive yourself and be willing to do the work to change.
Absolutely. Nothing needs else to be said about that. She nailed it. Guys, I'm telling you right now, make the decision. You're going to move forward or you're not. Support that decision and keep it going. Number 2, when it comes to rebuilding trust, I want y'all to put this in the chat. Be open to self-growth and improvement. Be open to self-growth and improvement. Cherie, this was the part that I didn't get after my string of adulterous affairs in my first marriage. I didn't recognize that I was broken.
Right.
I didn't recognize that there was a disconnect. Something was wrong with me. Y'all hear me? When you have someone that's doing anything that egregious habitually, and they just can't seem to get it together, something's wrong. They're broken. And if that person does not come to that conclusion, that in order for me to rebuild trust, it's going to have to look like, we said that earlier, it looks like something. This means now I got to go do some work on self-improvement. I think about my guy, Russ, from Texas, Russ Crawdaddy. He runs a crawfish business. This boy is a monster when it comes to all that kind of stuff. But when they came to us, both he and Kim, severely broken, been married for a number of years. But I remember the conversation where I had to say, Russ, you know what? You need to pump the brakes, bro. You need to back up, slow down, and recognize what was your part in this. Right. Y'all ain't just at opposite ends of the spectrum because it's all her fault.
Right.
And I had the same conversation with Kim. Until you guys can fix you, the relationship is in trouble.
Right. And that means stop making excuses. And when I say stop making excuses, you'll hear people, where my dad was a cheater, it's just who I am. It's it's a generational curse. Let me say this. Your past does not have to define your future.
Say it again.
You have a choice. I don't care what you've been through in your past. You get to choose who you want to be in the future. And if you want to be somebody different, do something different. Stop using the excuse that this is who I always been. This is who I was when you no, change. If you want to be a better person, if you want to be different, you can make that change. Don't get stuck in that mindset that this is just who I am.
Yeah.
And then that also comes with, you feeling guilty about what you've done, that part of not forgiving yourself, and you start to believe that's who you are.
Yeah.
Like I know you shared with me before, you didn't feel like you could be faithful. Because you had been unfaithful for so long. And I was like, that's not who you are. And today, that's not who you are.
21 years in a row.
But you had to believe that about yourself.
No, absolutely. And I had to be with a community. You were a part of that. Dre was a part of that back in the day. There are certain people on this call that have, know our journey. But 20 years ago, 21 years ago, 22 years ago, you and I were a part of a real live community of people who would hold you accountable and help you to stay true to you.
Right.
Speak truth to you and say, listen, you're better than that. And we got your back. And that's what community does, guys. It helps you to be able to really grow as a human being and as a person. And so when we talk about if you want something different, you got to do something different. We know that's hard. We understand that that's not easy. That's why everybody don't do it. But what makes it easier is being in community with people who are doing that thing.
Right, and who could support you in it.
It's different when someone is supporting you and they've never been through what you've been through.
Right.
It's different. But when you're in a community of people who have been there, done that, ain't afraid to talk about it and tell you how they screwed that up and how they fixed it and how you can come through and do exactly what I just did, bruh, it takes the guessing work out of the game because at this particular point, babe, now all I got to do is follow your lead.
Right.
That's all I got to do.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? So we're talking about rebuilding trust. Number one, we said you got to decide to forgive or be forgiven. Number two, we said you have to be open to self-growth and improvement. And number three, you have to be aware of your innermost feelings and share your thoughts. Y'all need to hear me. You have to be self-aware. Put that in the chat. You have to be self-aware.
And you have to be vulnerable.
And that's part of self-awareness. Let me tell you something right now. If you cannot be vulnerable, if you cannot be transparent with you,
right,
your partner ain't got nothing coming.
Right.
Y'all hear me? If you can't, listen, for years, I couldn't speak truth to me. Mm-hmm. So how am I going to speak truth to you? How am I going to say this is how I'm feeling when you do this, and this, if I can't identify this is how I'm feeling when I do this, and this.
Right. And it's a level of self-awareness that you have to grow to. But I think the key part of that is yes, you need to be able to know for yourself. You have to have that self-awareness. But when you're in a relationship, you have to be able to be vulnerable enough to share that with your spouse, especially when trust has been broken.
It's critical.
You have to be able to share with them how you're feeling, how you're processing through it, what you're going through, the fact that, I feel bad that, you still don't trust me, that, and I know I put us in this situation and I'm doing my best to try to change, to try to show you.
And here's what I've been doing so that you know. Right. I had a conversation with Dre last night and he told me that there was this book he read. And I went out and I got that book. Let me show you what I read in chapter 2 last night. There was this part about this, and this. And babe, I never knew that. Right. So here's what I'm going to promise you. Give me 90 days and I want you to watch me work.
Right.
I'm putting a timeline on it. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm telling you where I got the information from. It wasn't just something I thought of. I actually had a conversation with somebody else. They told me something I needed to do. I showed that I was vulnerable. I did it. I bought the book. I'm investing in myself. I'm reading it. And this is what I'm getting. I'm having this kind of conversation with the person that I violated. Does that make sense? And when you do those kinds of things, I promise you, I don't walk around. Guys, y'all got to understand. Cherie and I know what it's like to come out of relationships where we were adulterers. Habitual. And then to come in a relationship where that doesn't happen. Period. Hasn't. Won't. As long as we do this work. Now, when we stop doing the work, I'm human.
Right, I am too.
And let me tell you something. This is a fine woman I got here. I'm not walking around talking about, I'm the only one for you. And I'm carrying it, and I'm laying it down, and I'm putting it down, blah, blah, blah. And you ain't never going nowhere. You can believe that. That's some nonsense. Now, let me tell you why I know you're not going nowhere because I'm doing that work, and I'm making it real hard for you to go somewhere.
Yes, you are.
You understand what I'm saying?
I don't want to.
And that's the point I'm making. So I want you guys to understand, and that brings us to number 4. Put it in the chat. You have to want it to work.
Yes. Both people have to want it to work.
Come on, babe.
If one doesn't want to work, and this goes back to what I was saying before about you making a decision to forgive, if you telling yourself, I'm done,
yep,
you're done.
Right.
Be man enough, be woman enough to say, you're done.
That's it. I'm done.
Stop stringing people along.
That's not fair.
Stop playing games with people. When you know that you're not going to do the work,
baby, we're not going to get to all this stuff today.
No, we're going to have to come back next week.
Jesus.
Be, and that's one thing for me that's a pet peeve because I've been in relationships. I've seen relationships, and I'm a woman, so I can only speak up from the man's perspective when this happens, where the man has made a decision. He's decided he's done. He's doing everything to show that he's done, but he won't leave.
Good God.
And it's like, dude, just man up and say you're done.
And put me out my misery.
Take us both out of our misery. Why are we going through this? Because when I asked you, you're like, nah, I'm good. Everything good.
Right.
We all right.
I'm straight.
I'm straight. No, you're not. You're not coming home. You ain't been home in 2 weeks.
Right.
Or you're coming home at 3:00 in the morning every night.
Right.
And you ain't at work.
Or you not coming to bed and you staying up on the couch.
You're sleeping on the couch every night. Something is off. You made a decision. You disconnected somewhere. Are you trying to work on this? Are we trying to build back? If you're not, then just say that and let's just move on. Now, let me say this. We are not proponents of divorce.
Not at all.
But we are not proponents of people being mentally, physically, or emotionally abused either.
Come on now.
And when it gets to the point that the relationship is that strained
and that toxic,
and it's become a toxic situation because one party clearly has decided they're not there.
Yeah.
They're just physically there.
Yeah.
That is an emotionally abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And a decision needs to be made.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that God created marriage for us to be in an abusive situation.
Come on.
And abuse is not always physical. I'm sorry.
No, you ain't got to be sorry with me. I'm done. Because at this particular point, I'm saying, listen, we've talked about rebuilding the trust. We gave you 4 things. Number 1, you have to decide to forgive or be forgiven. Number 2, you have to be open to self-growth and improvement. Number 3, you have to be aware of your innermost feelings and share your thoughts. And number 4, you have to legitimately want this to work.
Right.
And when you want something to work, that looks like something. Does that make sense? If you've been missing for 2 weeks, boy, bye. You come on now, Teresa. You get what I'm saying? Right. That if somebody done ghosted you, single people, listen to me carefully.
Y'all be surprised how many couples we done met with that has actually happened.
When a joker ain't calling you back and ain't engaging the conversation, that is a clue.
Right.
That they don't want to be there. And if they did, they would show you different.
Right.
Because I tell you, if you want to be there, that looks different. I don't give a flip what you have going on in your world. I've watched people, me included, go through a whole bunch of hoops when I'm pressed to talk to somebody, or when I'm pressed to be in somebody's in relationship with somebody, or I'm pressed to get this thing back on track. That looks like something.
Right. And
don't you let nobody tell you different.
And also, people check out emotionally. They may not physically be gone for 2 weeks. Right. They have emotionally checked out. And you know that. They have left the building. They are just a shell in the home.
God bless.
And when that happens, they've made a choice.
Yep.
And y'all need to have a real conversation. So where are you? What's going on?
Yeah.
Why is it that you've been so distant for the past 2 months?
Guys, I want to say
what's going on.
I'm sorry, baby. Let me cut you off.
You can't do that to people. It's not fair.
Yeah.
If you make a decision, if you make an internal commitment to yourself, you decide, you tell yourself internally, I'm done. Be man enough or woman enough to let your partner know you're done.
Yep.
Don't drag them along.
Absolutely. So guys, listen, I want to go back and I want to reiterate the fact, Tiara, a man who wants you will never leave room for doubt. Right. Tiara, you ain't said nothing but the truth, the whole truth, so help you God. Let me tell you what I know as a man. I promise you, I am going, even if I'm a non-communicator, whatever way I show you, you're gonna know that I want to be there.
You feeling ghosted in the joker in the house with you? That's a problem.
That's a problem. So what I want y'all to do next week, we're gonna pick back up, and I don't even apologize because I didn't realize how deep this particular piece is, because we haven't even really talked about specifically for the offender. What does it look like for the offender to forgive? For the offender to have to be open to self-growth. Listen, the offender, right? What it looks like for the person who's betrayed. Mm-hmm. There is some growth that the betrayed needs to go through in order to accept forgiveness, or in order to be able to say, okay, yes, and we can move on.
Right.
You yourself have to grow on the receiving end. Deirdre, here's what I've learned. Just because I've offended or I've been the offender doesn't remove the fact that the offendee has
work that I have to do as well.
Doesn't have work to do either, right? Now, so let's back up real quick. If I use we're gonna leave here. If I use our situation in terms of the finances, we talked about this last week. Cherie and I had a major breach in trust years ago. When it came to finance, she went out, long story short, she went out, got a credit card without saying anything, started running it up. We couldn't pay it. But because she was running all of the finances, she just felt like that's what she needed to do in order to get us out of a hole. Well, she never communicated that to me. And that was the agreement that, listen, you run the finances, but we talk about what's being done, even because she's better at it than me. And so that's why she's running it, right? So check this out. What was crazy to me is that I didn't realize that although I was the one that was offended, there was some room of growth for me to be able to accept that you said sorry, to accept that you were willing to do the work on growing. I had to, as the person that had been offended, also do work on me. Glenn, why can't you extend grace?
Right.
Why can't you move on? What is the problem that you feel like you got to hold this over her head? Why are you walking around looking at her side eye? What's going on with you that you can't let that go? I had to do work on me. Does that make sense, guys? So I need y'all to understand this is not a one-way street. This has to work both ways. That's why, again, particularly in marriage, this ain't a game.
Right.
There is a lot of work to be done. And unfortunately, most people didn't sign up for that.
Right.
They say, I signed up for all the good stuff, but ain't nobody doing all this stuff right here.
Right. And I'm going to drop y'all off here. So in a situation where we're going to deal with infidelity, Glenn he has an affair. I have to work on me to be able to forgive him, to be able to move past that. But also, and it's not my fault that he stepped out at all. That's something with him. That's his issue. That don't have nothing to do with me. But I do have to look at myself.
Please make sure they know that I didn't do that.
No, he didn't do that. This is a
very bad hypothetical.
This is hypothetical. Okay?
Really nightmare kind of a hypothetical.
This is hypothetical.
But we'll go with it just for the sake of an illustration.
This is hypothetical. So hypothetically, Glenn cheated on me.
Right.
I have to work. That was his issue. Why he did it. That had nothing to do with me. Why he did what he did. Mm-hmm. But in us being able to rebuild trust, in us both growing through that, I do have to look at myself and see what is it that I'm doing, or how can not what is it that I'm doing or not doing, but how can I help him by possibly maybe there are some changes that I need to make. Maybe I need to grow in my communication with him. Maybe there were things that I saw that I didn't speak to.
That's good.
Maybe
right there.
There are things that,
So it went on further.
Right, because I never addressed it. I may have seen some things that looked strange in the beginning, but I just was like, I ain't gonna say nothing.
Well, going forward, had
I said something that could have,
who knows,
pulled him up a little quicker, and he'd be like, oh gosh, not that I can control what he does.
Right.
But are there things that I could have done? Was I being passive? Was I not addressing the issue? Was I being a bee?
Yep.
And not
creating an
environment where he felt safe at home, where he felt that he could talk to me, where he felt confident.
That is so important.
So I do have to take time to evaluate myself, even in that process, even though I'm not the one that committed the offense. I didn't cause the offense. Mm-hmm. And I want to say that over again.
And you can't cure the offense.
I can't cure the offense, but it does require me also to take some self-reflection and look at myself in that situation. Is there anything I could have done to maybe have spoke to it sooner? To maybe, was I creating an environment that he didn't feel safe?
Right.
So you do have to ask yourself those hard questions well, but it's not your fault.
That's why
that the other person did what
I gotta say this, because it's so true, and Deirdre could chime in if she was on, my ex-wife, if she was on this call. I remember when we got divorced, and we had not done this work prior, so there was no room to forgive and move on. But after it, because we started doing that work on ourselves, I remember sitting down with her and telling her, let me say this so that you're really, really clear, because she went from a really, really confident person to a person that doubted everything about herself.
Right, because she felt like it was her fault.
And I needed to, because I was very aware that 98.9% of this problem, the only reason I'm allowing some room is because we're human, was my issue, right? I remember sitting down with her. It was a Denny's in Annapolis, Maryland. I will never forget this. And pouring my heart out to her to say, listen, what went down had nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. And I could cry. That was 20 some years ago. Right now, thinking about the pain that I was letting out and the release that she got. Mm-hmm. Because for the first time she could hear, because of the work I did, I was able to let her off of a hook.
Right.
Because she was holding herself on a hook that had nothing to do with her at all.
Right.
She wasn't, and I had to tell her, you didn't become a bee until you married me.
Right.
I created that. Mm-hmm. And so I need y'all to understand that for me, this is really real, because I lost an entire family over my foolishness. Y'all hear me? And so I need y'all to understand it is important for y'all to do that work, to individually on each other, because the truth of the matter is that there is some room for growth. And here's what I want y'all to remember. My mother used to say this all the time. I didn't understand this until I got much older. She said, wherever two people are involved, it's never all one person's fault.
Right.
And there's there's a lot of truth in that. Mm-hmm. And so I had to release her, so much so that she has a very successful second marriage, mm-hmm. of which all of us are friends.
Right. We just went on a cruise earlier.
They coming down for
my birthday.
For her birthday in a couple of weeks, and we're going to kick it. Mm-hmm. But it was because I did work. It allowed her room to do work. And as a result, we were able to raise a healthy child, blending a family. Right. And it was like as if, now, I mean, we obviously are aware of what happened, but I promise you guys, our relationship don't look like that.
Right.
So anyway, I ain't messing with y'all no more. We got to go to the store. I got a workshop I got to do later on this morning. Y'all pray for your boy. We're getting a chance to work with some people who are building actually, he's going to become an owner-operator of a Chick-fil-A. He's in their program, and I'm doing some team building and some leadership development stuff with them later on this morning. Sheree is going to come with me, and we're going to get it in. But listen, guys, let me say this so that y'all are clear. Two broken people don't make a whole.
That's true.
Come on, Russ. Two halves do not make a whole. Mm-hmm. Two wholes make a whole. And with that being said, come back next week. We're going to give y'all the last principle on how couples can rebuild trust in marriage. And in the next week's session, what I want to do is begin to transition that into talking about singles.
Right.
So we're going to deal with that last part first, right? And then we're going to go back through it, but with singles in mind. So if you are on this call and you are single, next week, definitely jump on. It's going to be your week. We're going to need to chop it up and talk about that, because I'm trying to tell you, singles, y'all are going through some craziness with trust issues because you've not done work in your singleness. Right. So that once you get married, you're taking them trust issues into that marriage. And what you don't know is you're sabotaging the jump before it even gets started.
Right.
And that's not cool.
Right. And real quick, just want to address, and Tiara, your point, I definitely agree with your point. If you don't deal with whatever the issue is when it happens, and what I mean by that is if you're the violator, or if you have trust issues as the person that breaks trust, or trust has been broken, if you don't deal with that, even if you get a divorce, that issue does not go away. So you have to do this season of self-reflection. Yep. And do the work. You're going to either do it in this relationship, yep, or you're going to do it in the next relationship.
That's good
the
stuff.
Issue is not going to go away if you don't deal with it.
That's good. Guys, listen, we got to go. At the end of the day, here's what I know to be true. You cannot get to any place of significance by yourself. Why? Because we all need some help. Y'all be good. Let's talk soon.
Bye, guys. Have a great Saturday.